Hello everybody, this is Tim at Planet Corydoras. Welcome to our Friday night live discussion. I'm going to let a few people join up first. So I hope you've all had a good working week. Those who have been at work and those who have been isolating, staying safe, hope you're all doing the same. So we've got a few people joining already. Hi Ken, thanks for joining us. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. Just had a few things to set up beforehand. So I'll be filming this more on widescreen. I saw a few people watching this on their TVs last week, so this might be a bit easier for them as well, better for YouTube later as well. Hi Dennis, hi Len, thanks for joining us. Hi Eddie. Robin Wells wants to be in your video as well. Do you want to join, Robin? Type if you do. I'll let you by all means. So tonight I have a few subjects to go through, but other subjects can come up by all means. Feel free to ask any questions as we go through and have those topics. The way I do things aren't always necessarily the way everyone else does things. So, it's good to discuss. And I'm always personally out for listening to tips and tricks as well from others, because there's definitely more than one way to do some things as well. Hi, Ruben, you don't want to go in video. That's fine. No worries. We'll let you off. So, see if your comments are coming through thick and fast. Thanks for joining, Braden. Hi, Eric. Hey, Neil. Good, thanks for all joining. We're up to a reasonable number. So, topics I've got down on our list today, which I was asked to discuss, were around some of the food that I'm using. Again, I'm sure there's lots of foods out there, so we can go through what others use as well. We'll do a little bit about raising fries. I have a few fry in a tank at the minute, so I can share that with you as well. Hi, Tina. And we can look at the water changing system which I use, and we'll go through hopefully some common Corydoras issues, and we might even broach a little topic around sand, dun, 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 the one that everyone likes to talk about. Thanks, Neil. Just sometimes it happens to me. What can I say? It's what I feed myself, not just the Corys. So, without further ado, for those who haven't joined on the sessions before, I'll just give a quick overview of what I've got here and how I've got a few things set up. So don't be shy, feel free to ask any questions, and if any other admins or mods who want to join in on the video chat, I think they're more than welcome as well. So enough of my ugly mug. I'll switch the camera around and you can see how I have things set up over here. So I've got the lights out so you can see a bit better, but this is my setup here. It's in a sort of a quiet end of the house. Done in a rack, so as it's in the house, not an actual fish room, which I would like to have one day. If my wife's watching, of course, I don't want a fish room one day. But had to have this sort of set up so it's still reasonably neat and tidy, and not just like a noisy fish room. So I've tried to keep sound and that in mind as well, and it's a bit more appeasing with the surroundings as well. Hi Morton, thanks for joining. I need more tanks. You're right, I do need more tanks. But again, if my wife's watching, I don't need more tanks. What's interesting is there's a fireplace here in the middle, and there's another alcove just over here doing diddly squat. Wouldn't that be good? Anyway, that will I'll have to buy something nice for my wife to make that happen. So yeah, in total in this room I've got do the advanced maths, 14 tanks in here. I have another big display tank as well with discus in another room, but I say I'd like to definitely grow that, because I definitely don't have enough tanks, which we would like. I have to make sure that I use as much space as I possibly or use every millimetre space that I have. So I do have tanks on the ground, which I would say is not ideal in the slightest, but it was a choice of being extra 4 tanks or not having those 4 tanks, and so that's what we've gone with. I just have to be careful not to knock them if we're using the Hoover or anything like that in here. It's not ideal, and obviously the way the heat can transfer as well. The tanks are one big tank, which are then sort of separated, so they all just sort of slide in. Then I have some insulation wrapped around as well, just to try and keep some of the warmth in as well. So what was that? Sorry, I just missed it. Fireplace isn't needed. Easing another 28 cents there. Cost of voiceover. Yeah, I know that is the problem. You're right. So each row I have one heater in, just to keep things in a good situation in case this room gets a bit colder. It's on the edge of the house, so it does tend to get a bit cooler in here than some of the other rooms in the house. So they just kick in as and when needs be, if I've got some other fish in here which might prefer a slightly warmer temperature as well. Each of my tanks tend to have a lot of Java moss in it, plant-wise. I'm not a big plant keeper by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure a lot of people can teach me a lot around that. But it's nice for the fish. They like to spawn in that quite often. And if I miss any eggs, which I have to say I'm not particularly good at seeing them, sometimes they will survive quite often within that Java moss, as it is so dense as well. So you can see that I've got to put some bloodworms into there. I did a big water change earlier on, and that has got them all a little bit in the mood in general anyway. Zoom in a bit. There's some Osmani, CW028s there. There's a few of the Dafsanzais as well. There's a few Hestatus in there, and that's my little quarantine tank in there as well, with a few new arrivals, and they've been there for about a week now. They'll probably be in for another 2 to 3 weeks before I pass them on to any other tanks. That's what I have in the bottom row. In this middle row here, we have some guppies which used to belong to my children, and so they've just managed to stay in there. A few Kanaki in there as well. Here are my gold lasers, CW010s. There's quite a few in there. I know a lot of people talk about stocking and so forth, but the Corydoras like to be in normally quite large groups. They really do. So what I tend to do is just make sure you have a good filtration system, and you keep up your maintenance and good amount of water changes, and they'll generally be pretty good. But obviously things, when you do overstock, can go pretty south pretty quickly. So it's a case of definitely monitoring your fish and making sure that you just keep on touch and at top of it, and keep a good eye on everything going on. I also have some Geophagus in here. There's 2 sets, so let me zoom up a little bit so it's not so wobbly. The ones on the right hand side, they were probably around March, and these guys on the left were probably about a month old now. So can't keep them together because they will devour each other, as I will probably demonstrate actually. They're very, very friendly. You can see them all coming up. Oh, sorry if I get my fingers out of the way. There you go, have some bloodworm, guys. That'll be gone in about 2 seconds. Fun fish, they are. Fun fish. I like Geophagus, and when they get big, they're gorgeous. When they're little, they look pretty boring. Up here, we have some of the C045s. From Mark. They're still going really nice and happy. They spawned for me last week for the first time, but unfortunately I got fungus on all the eggs. Sometimes it just happens. It's a bit unlucky in there. Some Brebs in here. This is a bit of an all sorts tank, and there's some of the concolors still going nice and strong. And at the top I have more of my holding tanks. So these are a bit bigger, these ones. These are around 80 litres compared to the other ones, which are all sort of in the mid-30s. And so they have a Plex are always constantly breeding, so you'll see lots of Plex in there. He's actually in the tube at the minute, sitting on a load of eggs as well. The Sturby are in there, and I've only got 3 in there, but they decided to spawn over the last month or so. Some I'm sure are in there, but some are also in one of the little fry outlets I have as well. These are my, get it right, C127s, I think. This is a camera focus. There you go. Oh, there you go. That's a baby, which is not that old at all. That can only be at most 2 months old. have absolutely, I can't believe how quickly they've grown, to be honest. There's the parents there, and you can see actually on that plant there's a couple of eggs sat there already. They're due to hatch probably any time now, really any time now. So keep an eye on that one during the video as well. All my tanks have shrimp in, cherry shrimp to be exact. I find they help keep the tanks clean. They also will help out when any eggs or anything are laid by keeping them clean as well. Not quite the same techs as those. The C45 are slightly different, but if I remember correctly, I think they have smaller spots. That's off the top of my head. Just came up through some of the messages back from Missing Think guys. Hi, Kat. Yeah, so I'll just quickly mention that I did, as you probably saw on some posts this week, I got a new water change pipe, which is quite nice. I didn't actually bring it here with me, but bought one bit so it has a water valve on it connecting up to my garden hose, and that's how I do water changes. My water change is all from rainwater in a water butt. There is a pump in there which then pumps through a garden hose, and it now sits nicely over the edge of each tank and fills it up, which was very happy with. Although what I did find is that the water comes out much quicker than it used to come out of the water hose guns. I really was surprised actually how quickly that did. Good, glad you ordered one then. I'm quite happy with it. I just need to now sort out actually taking the water out of it better, because at the minute I'm still emptying into buckets. I just need to get my budding gear and actually transfer it into a waste pipe somewhere as well, just to make life a little bit easier, and I probably end up doing more water changes. Although I am looking to go down the RO route as potentially my primary, purely because during the summer I definitely struggled with the amount of rain that we had to keep on top of the water changes, and they probably suffered a little bit because of that. So I want to have a system done there as a backup. Okay, so there you go. There's my overview, guys. I don't know if you've watched that before, so apologies, but I'd like to give an overview for people who haven't seen it before. Right, let's talk about raising fries, as we've just been discussing around some of the ones that were spawned. So hopefully, let's see how good the camera will zoom in the light. This is my little hatchery I have got going at the minute. See if I can. Very difficult to focus on. It's like they're flying all over the place now. But you can see there's a couple of guys sat in there. I think there's 15 or so in there, roughly. I had a very good hatch rate from these guys. It wasn't a big spawn. It was probably only about 30 eggs or so, and I think I pretty much had all of those hatch, which was great. Same time as the C045s. They're on a different box, but so they were fungus up. None of these fungus whatsoever. Just shows that sometimes your techniques work, sometimes they just don't. And who really knows exactly why? We just got to try our best and try different tactics with different species, and try and learn from any mistakes that you've made. And so, I mean, what I found with this batch, so I had about 30 or so, but I probably lost a few now. What I found that they were I think they were getting some sort of bacterial fungus going on their barbels. So what I've started doing is changing actually the Tupperware box every single day. So I take them out, nice new clean box, give them a feed. And so although I was changing the water every day, which is definitely something you should be doing, is doing a bit, quite a good water change, keeping though from the main parents tank, and I add, so the water temperature doesn't really change. But you haven't got a filter in here, so that's got to be a problem. But also just generally, because there is a bit of light in here, stuff can grow on the bottom quite quickly, so I'm starting to swap them out every day. So that's when I sit next. Now I always make sure you've got an air stone in here as well. You need to have some sort of circulation, just keep things moving around. That's about right, I think, on the flow wise. People might tell differently, but for me that's the case. I then have one of the leaves in here as well, to help give some sort of qualities to the water to help insulate the eggs from the fungus as well. I also put a drop of methblue in there at the beginning while they're eggs. Then just before they're hatching, with the water changes I'm doing, they find that the methblue's all gone, so isn't a problem. And I also drop in some cherry shrimps as well to help eat any eggs which do fungus and stop it spreading to any of the good eggs. So that's generally how I work. Sometimes I'll use all the cones as well. That is another good top tip. But there are lots of ways of doing this, and some things work, some don't. Others I know will put them in a tumbler as well. And I've found when I've had ones species which lay in the sand, they going in a tumbler sometimes will knock off the sand, and I find I can see a bit more what's going on. So, you know, everyone to their own really. There isn't a perfect way of doing anything like this. So that's around fry. Is that a takeaway pot? No, it's not a takeaway pot. Well, not what they're in. That's just some Tupperware. I can talk about what I feed them. So if you can just see here growing in this pot, let me get the right worms. They're not banana worms, they're not micro worms, they're Walter worms. So these guys are pretty damn small worms, but perfect for feeding those fry. They can stay alive nearly for about a day in the water as well. It's also good just to go to the adults every now and again as well, and it's really pretty much free food. This stuff lasts for about a month and keeps growing every day. You can harvest it. It's really simple. Get a kit off eBay for a $5, and it works great. Lots of different ways though of actually growing stuff. You can use porridge, you can use bread, you can use as I've used in this case, what's the word, instant mash. For people watching, that's mashed potato powder with a bit of water added to it. So I'll feed those. I'll make sure they've at least got a supply of those for at least for a day. There are other foods as well, which other people use, again with great success. Different species are happy with different things. Yeah, you know what, Dennis, about that? See my wife's Tupperware? Yeah, she saw earlier on that the bloodworms are actually in her Tupperware, and she wasn't happy, I'll be honest. But hey ho, I'll buy some new ones. Yeah, all right, you can have that one, guys. Okay, so that is the fry stuff. Any questions at all, guys? Feel free just to shout. Yeah. Well, I say, Mark, I haven't tried the porridge method, but the mash so far, I have no concerns with the smell. It's only when you open the lid, is a little bit of a smell, like a sort of vinegar type smell, I would describe it as, which isn't that bad. But I'll let you know in the next month or so. Okay, so that was raising the fry. Keep asking questions, guys, or any comments at all. Just interact. That's all after. It's not about the Tim show. I'd much rather this be a very open discussion with everybody. Discuss my water change system. Let's talk about some of the other foods for the adults. So I have a huge variety of food that I feed the adults. I do give them live food, particularly the bloodworm. Can I add though, bloodworm's not necessarily a good diet to give them all the time. It's not particularly nutritious for the fish. It's like candy, that's the way I would describe it. For the Americans and for the English, like your chocolate. That just sort of gets them going and a little bit more in the mood to help trigger them into spawning. But you know, that's good as a treat. You know, frozen food like that as well. So there's all the different sort of worm classes, Daphnia, that sort of stuff. But you know, dry foods are also very good if you get good quality ones. And I just try and look for ones which are quite high in protein, but specifically if you can go something more insect based, that is a good idea. Because that tends to be what they will eat in the wild. Now, I've seen a lot of posts recently about people saying I drop in algae wafers, you know, or chopped up veg and things like that. And to be honest, really, that's pleco food. not really Corydoras food. They will nibble on it, and but it's not really their primary diet. So if you have if they have a little go, that's fine. If you're feeding the Plex, that's fine. But I would definitely not be using it as their primary feeding method at all. Yeah, Rapace is a really good one. So I'm just catching up on some of the bits here, guys. How my discus. Actually, my discus just spawned this week. It's a new batch of discus I got back in probably around June time frame. So just today, well, it's not today, the day before, we had our first spawn from a couple in there, which is quite nice. And actually, they haven't eaten the eggs, which is also good. They're about due to hatch probably, again, anything over the next 24 hours. But they're in a community tank, well, not community, but with a lot of other discus, so I don't expect them to survive. And I'm not really actually specifically looking to breed them. It'd be nice, but it's not one of my major goals at the minute. But I'm also thinking about doing a big change with my discus and getting a new tank. I don't like my tank setup on the discus. It's got a great big sump, which is great, but I'm just not finding the weirs doing its job at taking out all the rubbish from it. So that's one project coming along in the not too distant future. Okay, Kat, well, I can help you, hopefully. I can give you the details of how I've done my the micro worms or the Walter worms. It works for all of them by all means, but it's mashed potato powder, specifically the cheap Asda brand. Okay, Rose says stir to help it a lot. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I do try and give it a bit of a stir and a clean when I'm using the fry pots. Rapace, yeah, seen that. Brine shrimp, yep, I do give brine shrimp. I've got some brine shrimp going at the minute. The fry I've found at the minute, which I've got, finding it a little bit too big for them. They're not really eating it. They're definitely... Sorry guys if I just lost you, apologies. Someone decided to call me right at that time. Okay, so let me go back through. So we said about the brine shrimp. Okay, just a few more people joining. Okay, I've caught up then. What I would say, guys, I always like to ask for advice now. I know there's a few pros in the group. I'm still trying to spawn my CW028s. I love these guys. They're gorgeous. I've had some of these guys for about 3 years now. So definitely well and truly matured. Even at the minute, they're looking a little bit frisky with the way they're swimming up and down like that. But I've yet to be able to trigger these guys, which is a real shame. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, you're right, Dennis. They do like the brine shrimp, the adults as well. Although I tend to find actually getting the brine shrimp up to a good size for them, they're quite diddy. Otherwise, I'd like to get them bigger. Yeah, that's what I've heard, Mark. CW228, hard to breed. I've heard of a couple who were doing it, but I haven't been able to get much information out of them as to what they did. I sometimes wonder if they knew exactly how they managed to do it. Sometimes these things can be a bit of a fluke. But not say fluke, but just good maintenance, and these things then just sometimes naturally happen. pH on my tank. Oh, I've just flipped the camera around. You don't want to see me. pH on my tank is it's rainwater, so it sits around about 7. It's then low KH and GH, probably around about, I think it's 3 GH off the top of my head, and between 1 and 2 KH, so I do have to watch out for pH crashes. Fortunately, I've not yet had that as a problem, but it is something I do have to always think about. All right, Mark, I'll be having a chat with you about the Schwarzschild then. In fact, I know there's a couple of people who've been trying to breed the Schwarzschild. I don't think I've ever owned Schwarzschild. Maybe when I was 12 or so, maybe I had some, but it's been a long time. Okay, right, so let's move on. So next thing I had down were what are some of the common Cory ailments. Well, I can tell you this just purely from monitoring the group all the time. Sorry, let's have a change of scene to something different. These guys here. Yeah, common issues then. Bacterial infections are reasonably common, I see, in the group. They quite often will come around due to poor maintenance, to be fair. So one of the first things I would say to anyone when they get their first, Corydoras or any fish, make sure you have a water test kit. There's no point going into your local fish shop and asking them to test it, because by the time they test it, everything will probably have been changed anyway. You want a result there and then to know what's going on when something's going a bit south. So bear that in mind. There's lots of cheap water kits on the market. The cheap one I use was an NT Labs one. I think the US guys might struggle to get that. I know a few people have got it over there, but I think they retail something around £22 for the full set, and you can buy little top-ups as well. So just make sure you get that, and just keep an eye on your water. If you ever think any issue, first thing to do, check your water, and we'll always ask you that in the group as well. When you say you have an issue, we'll say, what are your water parameters? And please don't just say they're good. Please say exactly what you've got. It really, really helps us to help you, because that's all we want to do. We just want to make sure everyone has the best success they can have looking after the fish. So yeah, that's one of the common ones. To go with bacterial infections, you've got to think when you see a pop eye, if you've heard of that before, that's when the eyes literally look like they're about to pop out of the guy's paw heads. That's when they have like a bacterial infection behind their eye. That one again, quite often poor maintenance on the tank. Sometimes you can just get unlucky. That does sometimes happen, but it's quite often based around that. So keep up those water changes, and I'd always say do those. If I see something with the pop eye, then I'll be like, right, daily water changes to try and sort out the issue without medication. But then there's some great, if you still doesn't work out, the next step I would then go is to adding some salt to the tank. There's a great article up on our website, so go and take a look at that. First plug tonight, www.planetcorydoras.com. There's some articles around there, and we're trying to increase those all the time with from different people to give you some hands-on experience of these different issues. That's from I think Roland actually wrote that one. He's watching at the minute, so great example of how you can use salt. And can I just quickly add, before someone says you can't use salt with Corydoras? Yes, you can use salt with Corydoras. It's fine. I've used salt on many occasions. 3 grams per litre is fine for all Corydoras that I've ever used it upon, and they quite often will tolerate a lot higher than that, but feel free to ask in the group specifically why you want to do that. So 3 grams would be really the most that having to ask the question. So those are some of the common ones. I don't tend to see anything like bloat affecting Corydoras that much. It comes out every now and again, quite rare though, I would say. You'd then probably start seeing more things like fungus type issues. So you'll see that little white fluffy patch somewhere on them normally. That's normally a telltale sign of fungus. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And that again, keep up those water changes, and keep up the then you probably will have to use meds for that as well. I won't recommend any meds live on the video because everyone has something different in their countries. Okay, keep asking questions, guys. By all means, I'll try and monitor it at the same time as I'm talking. Let's look at where's Marnie. I'll just see him in the back. See if we can zoom in a bit. The guy's there. So yeah, if anyone else has any other particular ones around medical issues they want to ask, again, feel free to shout. But those are probably the most common ones. There is a guide on the website talking through like a first aid kit for Corydoras. Go and have a look at that, what you should keep in your medicine cupboard, because again, sometimes you'll need something, and you know, lo and behold, it's not going to arrive for a couple of days. That's just too long. Yep, septicemia is another reasonably common one. You're right, Mark. Okay, final one I had on my list then, guys, was sand. So sand comes up all the time in the group, and I suspect people sometimes put it up there just to stir a little bit of trouble. Let's face it, you can see how the guys feed on sand. If you haven't experienced it, you're missing out on a treat. I'll see if I can find someone now. He's sifting through. Okay, they will literally take a suck up the sand, and they filter it back through their gills, and that's what they like to do. That's what those barbels are designed to do: fill out that food within the sand. So if you've got a huge amount of gravel, they're going to struggle with it and not enjoy it so much. Yes, they may well survive. They may well survive, and that's fine. And I know some people who do keep them quite successfully. But you know, I would always be inclined of, if I could give them what they would most likely naturally have, and probably what I can see they most enjoy and are most or least likely to have any medical type issues from it, why wouldn't you give them sand? I'm not sure why I would do it. I mean, of course, if you've ended up with Corydoras as a bit of an accident, yes, it is a bit more of a chore, and you have to get your plants out and everything else. But I know a lot of people have swapped, and they've like, thank goodness I swapped. It's so much more fun. Look at this little guy go. See, it's so much fun. Yes, Mark, you're right. There is a blind one there on the Kanaki. That one I was given actually at CSG by a friend there, and unfortunately when I got it back, I noticed straight away that one was blind, and I actually had that one, and I think I got another one. Was it a Similis? I think it was, which is also missing an eye. So obviously I had a few eye issues there, but I'm still very grateful, and that's fine. So sand. Going back to that, you know, I would really recommend it. I'm not going to belittle someone who says they're fine, have been on it for 10 years on gravel and no issues. That's fine. It works for them. I'm not going to go on about it, but I would always, if people ask the question, or if I see gravel which looks really dangerous, you do see some people with just jagged looking, razor blade looking pieces of stone, I will say, and I mean it in the nicest, kindest way, guys, but I would recommend swapping. And that's all I will probably say around that. There you go. See, Linda, some people say we'll be fine with different substrates, and they find that it's working for them. But yeah, that's my opinion. Well, there was a question back there, wasn't there, which I've missed. Sorry, guys. What was it? I think it was. I think it was what size the tanks were. My tanks are pretty little. I would like to see them being bigger, but these ones down here in the base, I think they work out at 34 litres. They are 2 foot back into the wall, but they're something like about, I think they're 10 inches tall and about 9 inches across. That's what I had to work with to get the whole structure in place and safe. So it is a little bit on the small size, but keep your maintenance up. Your fish will be happy. Yeah, they don't mind. I have to say, my CW028 were the most happy when, before I built this cabinet and I had to sort of shift everything around to make space, they all got dumped into one big tank with a lot of other Corydoras, and it was way overstocked, and they had to be that way for about a month or so. But they were so active, so eager for foraging. Otherwise, these guys are pretty fat and lazy, to be honest. This is quite an active night for them tonight. You don't often see them going up and down the screen. They just like to sit there and just watch. Hey guys. So yeah, then the middle tanks are sort of like the next sort of stage up. So these are about 40 litres on these ones. I think they're 12 inches high rather than 10. But so, because I've had so many Geophagus, they've sort of taken up a lot of my space at the minute. These will be up for sale very shortly to the local fish shop and a few others. These guys are going to be in there a bit longer because they're literally, I would think there's well over 100 in there. These guys, I think there's about 30 in there of those ones. So they're getting there. And then the top tanks are 80 litres. So it's all what you make for it, guys. Thanks, Robin. Thanks for joining. So I've sort of got to the end of the list of what people ask for me to talk around, guys. I'm happy to carry on talking and showing, but also appreciate you might get a bit bored and you might have other things to do with your Friday night. And again, apologies that it's quite late in the evening for some people, but bear in mind I'm based in the UK. Half the people in the group are actually in the Americas, and we have a lot of people in Australia. I was trying to find something which is just somewhere in the middle. I will try and do some at some different times to help out times, so I might do more of an early morning one at some point as well. C045s are out to play. They're looking pretty happy. Obviously enjoyed their bloodworm. How many fish do you have in each tank roughly? Sometimes where I'm overstocked, but keep on top of them all. So, I mean, like this, the C045s here, they're in a 34 litre, I think it is. And I think there's 8 in there. So that's a reasonable size species in that tank, but they're very happy. But I also have a couple of plex in there as well. Don't forget, that's obviously adding a bit of bioload on as well. But I really have not had any problems with my water chemistry at all. That's something I really have not had a problem. I keep on top of that, lots of water changes, and they tend to enjoy being packed in. That's my experience. But I do have to be cautious, because you get some people who don't have the right sort of filter system set up, and so it can easily fail very quickly. Especially if I go away for 2 weeks, then I'm a bit nervous as to, is everything going to be all right? Because I can't jump on a problem like I normally can if I was to see it now. But like the gold laser tank down here, you can't see them because the gold lasers just always disappear as soon as I throw the camera on them. But there's probably 20 Corys in here, I would think, and that's in about a 38 litre tank. And they're happy. Trust me, they're very happy in there. Yeah. I have to agree, Mark, the Matten filters which I have are excellent. So those who don't know them, they're just basically one large sponge wall at the back with a pipe driven by an an air pump, which drives all my tanks. It's got one air pump on it all, and that just sucks through the water through the filter and then spews it back out the top again. And it's a very large sponge surface area, which is obviously what you need for a filter system, a large surface area. And I've also left space in the back there as well, behind the sponge, because you need a little bit of space for the pipe anyway to fit in. You can't have it sort of crammed up against the wall. And so that little space either side of the pump, I put some, not ceramic, I forget now the type of it, but like ceramic. And so it's like Biohome type stuff, but it's not Biohome. I wouldn't buy that, it's too expensive. So they have that in there behind them as well, and I could probably top that up more as well. So I really am not worried about the bioload that the filters have. So sorry, I'm just going to catch up quickly what's going on. So Kat, hopefully I've answered your question. Ewan, thanks for joining us. I think it was quite early in the morning for you. Appreciate it. Lucifer, I want to use rainwater, but I live near a big city and busy roads. Is it safe to collect and use? It's difficult to say. I don't know your environment. I'm reasonably near a busy, not quite a motorway, but not far off it. And, you know, that is sometimes have been a bit of a concern, but I've not seen anything in the parameters to cause any concerns of fish breeding, so I would say I'm good. But I would say if you're really in a densely populated area, then yeah, it could be a potential problem. It's difficult to say. You can try doing one tank and see how it goes. That's probably how I would do it, and that is how I did it initially. I did a bit of a trial over a month or so to see what happens, and yeah, that's what I saw. Just going to change position without falling over. Sorry for the camera work. What's my best food to bring on the juveniles? So I say definitely go with the worms initially. Then anything sort of very high protein sort of based. I can't open this lid, but it isn't Tubifix in here. It's some other stuff I have, which I can't now remember the name of either. But if I open up this, you'll see the mess, but all the different sorts of foods that I have in here to keep things going. There's just a big variety. So I'm going to stick that back up. There's just a big variety of quality foods, and if you go on the website, we have a list I have a list up there of everything I've used, and then some people, good friends in America, of what they use as well to share. Okay. Sorry, catching up. Yeah, it's like porcelain rings. Still don't remember the name of them. I'm going to remember and add it on the camera later on. Bio-Home is supposed to be the best filter media. I've never actually bought on it. I've read it. It makes sense what they're saying, how it works, but it's very difficult to get a comparison to say, well, it's the best, but how much better is it? Are you talking 2%, 10%, 50%? I found it very difficult to get that information other than it is the best. Well, okay, it's the best, but is it worth paying that huge price tag over some basic ceramic rings, which are as cheap as chips in comparison? It's, yeah, that's what I like to think. I want to make sure I get the best bang per buck. That's what I think about it when you're spending a lot of money. It's like when I buy the sands, sand is a one-time purchase. So, yeah, I probably buy the most expensive sand, but really it's not that expensive when you take that into consideration. Barbel erosion, why does it happen and how to fix it? Good question. Barbel erosion tends to happen when they have a bad substrate, which causes like a nick, and they get bacteria in it, and bang, there goes the barbels, which isn't a lot of fun. Barbels will grow back if you're able to treat the issue which has caused it by taking away the gravel, which might have caused it. But equally, you sometimes see it when there's no substrate. If people just have bare bottom tanks, see it in a lot of discus keepers. Wouldn't do it. I don't think it's fair on the fish, and it can cause problems. I've also seen parasites can cause their barbels to sort of wear down. I'm not quite sure. It's something to do with like a secondary infection, I believe, but that's another one I've noticed it on. Put charcoal in your rainwater butt. Yeah, you can put charcoal in your rainwater to help that. What I've actually done is I find in the summer my water butts is, no matter if even though it's pretty well sealed, some sort of bug or larvae will find their way into it, and so I actually do put a little sponge filter in there just to make sure that we don't suddenly have a spike in ammonia or something. You do a water change and you get then a load of ammonia in your tank. So I just have a couple of tiny little sponges running in each of my water butts. See what Roland said. Where I live in Holland, because most industries are air pollution has been regulated. Put an air stone in it. Oh yeah, that's a very good point about the air stone in the water butt. Yeah, I have air stones in there as well. Just keeps you moving and not stagnating. If you're using all the water every sort of 2 or 3 days, that wouldn't be a problem. But I have a lot of water butts, so I can go quite a long time without rain. But that means that the one which hasn't been used the longest might have been there maybe 3 weeks. So you have to make sure that it's got some sort of movement and ideally some filtration. Do you run a brine shrimp hatchery for the newly hatched fry? Yes, I do have one. There's some currently going, but the last feed I had, they didn't really eat it, so I think they're a little bit too big for these particular fry. These are stir-by fry, by the way. I haven't actually hatched stir-by before. I wasn't planning to breed them. They just randomly bred, so it's a new one for me. For my fish, I'll pay anything. Number one priority, my friend. Number one. What size are my tanks? So, yep, said earlier on the film, let me zoom out a bit more. So, top tanks, 80 litres. I'll do it in litres, sorry for my US colleagues. I can never work in gallons. Then the smaller tanks here, these are about 34-ish litres. And then these ones, which are a bit taller, these guys, about 37 litres. Okay, so... sorry, it takes me a while to catch up, and I know there is lag when I'm talking to see messages, so apologies. When quarantining and water changing fish, what have you used that has worked for you? Okay, so you're saying like, so I quarantine my fish, yes. So there's my quarantine tank down the bottom. If I can zoom in, that's the quarantine tank at the minute. What I have found is it is a bit of a pain having it all built into one system, because it's quite easy when you're doing a water change, just moving around in the tanks, that a drop could get across into the other tank. I would like to have that separate. That is one of the things I would change about my system if I could go back again, would be to have an extra quarantine tank. Not going to get any day soon right now. So that's around the quarantine. Okay. Sorry, it's difficult to read this on my phone at the same time as filming, guys. I apologise. I have a 240 litre tank, nitrates at around 20 parts per million, about an inch of fine sand at the bottom, but I found a few corries with very small barbels, like they have been worn down. Any suggestions? I mean, the nitrates, that's not really that super high by any means. You might even find your tap water is at, this is one of the reasons why I moved away from my tap water. My tap water is about 45 on the nitrate scale, which is way too much. So that's why I moved away in the first place. It'd be interesting to see a picture of your tank and see the exact setup, because obviously it's unlikely to be the sand if it is natural sand, but it might be that it's not, potentially. So that's the one thing we'd like to look at. But as I said, there are other things which can cause it. Just when the fish is not well, they can get it as a secondary infection. So think about parasites as well. Check to see if they're doing any scraping on the sand. They do a flick, something like that. That can be a sign of that. Not always, but it can be a sign of that. Oh, Eric uses spring water. That sounds like a dream, my friend. That sounds like a dream. I'd love that. What are the yellow-coloured Corydoras? I think those were the C045, or you might be talking about the CW010s, which are those guys there, gold lasers. So I'm not quite sure which ones you're talking about, sorry. Okay. What's all the tiny fish in the bottom left? In the bottom left. This one, Cat. These are month-old redhead geophagus. Some people call them the earth eaters, which they do like to be earth eaters. So they've been there for a little while now. They came from my Corydoras, my discus tank, but so they're actually, the parents have been sold now. Okay, and that I think brings us up to about the news comments. Is it? No. What is my best Corydoras? I do like my CW028s, but I also really like my status, and so I'll go up the top here and see them all swim away. There's a young one there swimming around. I think it's great seeing a Corydoras which basically is imitating a tetra and will swim mid-water, and when they're all sort of going for it, they'll swim around in a big shoal as well. You see there's lots darting around in there. I just think they're fun. I think they're very clever how they've worked out. So they're one of my favourites. The other one of my favourites is CW045, which I unfortunately don't have. I would desperately like to get some more at some point. But I'm also trying to hone my breeding skills. And I know CW045s have been bred by very few people. So it might be one further down the line, which I put a bit more effort into it as well. Is your sand pool filtered sand? No, it's not. This is Barlow Aquatics sand, which I have here, which is from a place called Barlow Aquatics up north. What do you prepare for water change? What kind of Corydoras do you want to grow in the future? So preparing wise, it's rainwater, so I don't have to do a lot of preparation other than just make sure it's rained, and then it gets thrown into the tank. Just make sure that I keep an eye on the temperature, that I don't get it going down too low. That's something to consider, but at about 30% is roughly what I do in each tank. That's normally enough to keep it sort of about 19-20 degrees Celsius, which everyone seems to be quite comfortable with it going down that sort of low. I know it was my Barbados I used to have. I think they probably got down to 17 or so when they had their changes. So, hi Mark, thanks for joining. Matt Morning from Australia. We've gone through a lot of the topics, Matt. We've had the sand discussion, and no one's flipped out too much, which is good. This is good. There's probably people cursing me down the line going, what's he talking about? What's my dream fish? I presume you're talking about, that's nice young status, that one, really quite a diddler one. So I haven't pulled any of the eggs out for them. They just breed quite happily. As you see, no one's eating the eggs in there at all. That's been there 2 to 3 days, I think. Now, no one's touched it. It's fine. It hasn't got fungus on it. It has sand on it. A lot of my Corydoras seem to like getting sand on their eggs, which is pretty frustrating, actually. But that's the way it goes. I love... so Corydoras, I think I've answered what are my favourites. Other dream fish. I do love my discus, definitely. Oh, the pygmies are out there. They are. Hello, pygmies. I've only got 2 of those there. They're from a group I got of 20 about a year ago, and unfortunately I had about a 2-3 hour drive, and just for whatever reason they didn't like the drive, and these are the only 2 which survived. So, but they're quite happy, and I think I've got a male and female as well, because they're looking a bit saucy at the minute. Tim, what is there? The green airdrift. Oh, I haven't finished answering the question, Kat. Other fish though, so discus, and I do love koi. I have a pond outside. It's one I inherited when I bought our house, which is probably only about 5,000 litres, something around that figure. I'm planning on doing a 20,000 litre koi pond at some point as well, and I have some outbuildings, and I'm going to be, I've 3/4 of the way of building a grow-on tank to sort of do overwintering for koi as well. So that is definitely my passion. We do have a Planet Koi in the works. It's actually it's created, but I haven't really opened up to the public yet. But that's another passion. And so, Matt, what's the air-driven filter? Well, to be honest, this is it's just the housing I think I just got off eBay a few years back. It says Pauku, I think it says on that label. It was just some housing that I could see was going to work as an air-driven, and then inside it is a load of ceramic rings to really oomph the bio in there. These top tanks are so over-filtered, it's unreal. That what's in that bio chamber there would do it biologically, this whole tank, quite happily. But it also had a huge big sponge from my tanks where I moved everything across into this rack. It was all matured. I just didn't want to throw it away. It's a nice young Corydoras on top of that as well. And so it's fine. And then I have the Matten filters at the back as well. and it runs across the whole of the tank, which is pretty big, and it's dual driven, one either side. There's the other pipe as well. It's got insane amounts of bio on this. I mean, this has got about 5 plex in it as well, as all the Corydoras. There's must be about 10 adults in there, and then must be, with the status, must be around 20-ish, I would think. And then the other young, you're talking 40 fish, I would think, in that quite happily, and that's about 80 litres. And I've never had an issue with this tank ever. And the same goes to this side. I mean, if you look at the amount of pleckies I've got on this one, there must be easily 100 young plex in this one. And the stir-by, and everyone's still breeding. You've got the twigfish here as well. I'm not an expert in these guys, but I just think they're pretty cool. And I think they can be quite sensitive from what I've heard from other people. I've never had a problem with a guy at all. Eric, I love your CW038s. I think they're amazing. Please can I come across and get some from you? There you go. There's my little thing. Yeah, Morton, I know they're your favourite. Do you have Neocardinia shrimp in the tank for this particular reason? I can't remember what particular reason that was, but I have them in every tank for helping out with the eggs. I think they're pretty cool as well. I sell these on to the local fish shop. They breed like rats, literally. I don't mean that they are rats, but they just breed like them. So I actually get quite a good amount of money to help pay for the food and things like that as well. What will be the tank size for two? What will be the tank size for 2 stereo, especially if I want to breed them one day? I'm not quite sure what that means. What will be the tank size for 2 stereo? Not sure. Please ask again, and I'll see if I can get it the next time. Neil, sorry. Okay. You meant stir-by. Yes. So, I mean, the stir-by would be quite happy in the 35 litres I have. There's only 3 stir-by in there. And they're breeding quite happily. So, it's as big or small as you want to go with the maintenance. I think anything below 30 litres personally is too small. Maybe not be though for like pygmies or the status or something like that. But yeah, they're not bad. So I've got a couple of loose pandas. This is a bit of an odds tank. Like these guys, I must have had now nearly 5 years, and these unfortunately were in my children's tanks at the time, and one when I was quite young had an overfeeding accident, and I think I saw it a little bit too late, but these were the true survivors. So the strong gene survived. Everyone makes mistakes. That time it was the kids. Yes, I agree on Dennis's comment about getting the stir-by to the right age. I got these stir-by in here. I think they must be nearly 2 years old now. But I got them from a local shop, and they were diddy, and it took them forever to grow into any sort of decent size. And I had some panda with them as well, and they were the same. I think it was probably some weak genetics on that punt. So, but these guys are strong, have survived, and now doing well. Right, how long are we up to, guys? So we're at the hour mark. There's still 30 of you online. I really appreciate you staying with me. It seems like it's quite successful. I'd be interested to know if you would like to do these again in the future. I can just give updates, further questions. But I'm glad you guys are also talking in the chat channel. That's what I wanted to achieve. People having that live sort of conversation. We are a community, and this is all about helping each other. It really, really is. I just want the hobby to grow and be successful. These fish are gorgeous, and I think they deserve our care and love, and we want to be able to give them the best conditions that we possibly can, I would say. So, you know, I'm happy to receive feedback. I know I maybe not have everything perfect. So, you know, if there's improvements, you let me know as well, okay? A few more comments. Does fries can stay in no sand tank, or do I need sand? I would always recommend sand in the tank. The only time I don't put sand in is actually when they're in the fry tanks, like here. Some people do have sand in them, though. In all fairness, I've seen that. I haven't personally tried that yet. I might try it with a batch at some point. I also find that stowaway fry take a long time to grow. Thanks, Dan. So it's good to know. Get more tanks. We can do 2 hours easy. Like it. And Mark, you're 100% right, my friend. But yes, who knows? I'm very fortunate that I do have a lot of outbuildings, so I would like to do those at some point into something a bit more different. But I do have to make sure I have more automated water changes. I can't spend all the time I'd spend doing water changes, although mine's reasonably simple, I think, compared to some. Water changes take me about an hour to do these tanks, and you know, you say that if it's only a couple times a week, it's not out of time, but it is when you're working full time, managing the children, keeping the wife happy. It all takes a lot of time and effort. So I need to make it automated as possible. I know how to make these automated, but again, I had to get the most space and keep it nice and clean looking for being inside the house. If it was in a fish room, it would be a different thing, and tanks would be drilled and overflows and all sorts. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it. Yeah, definitely want to use the outbuildings, that's for sure then. Okay, any other final questions at all, guys? I see there's still people joining. All I can say is I will... I have a YouTube channel, guys, now. I will put that in the group. If you could all subscribe to it, I would really, really appreciate that. Once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I can live stream from YouTube, which will help out the group tremendously, because there is a little bit of funding that you will potentially receive. And, you know, things like the website do cost me personally. So I would, you know, appreciate those adverts and stuff, paying for a little bit of stuff like that. But we are purely non-profit, completely. So don't forget the YouTube channel. Also, don't forget that we have the website itself as well. So go to planetcorydoras.com. It's spent a lot of time creating it. There's some great information up there. It's still growing all the time. When I can get a little bit more time to add stuff to it, a great catalogue of images, and thanks to all those people who helped get those images together as well. A lot of people on this call right now help with that, so I can't thank you enough for helping out with that. Sorry, I saw a few one. Nice one, Tim. Thank you. Sorry, how often and how much do you water your water changes? I do about once to twice a week, depending on the rain. Actually, more than anything. If I know it's going to rain, that's good. So they might even get more. And I do about 30% on each of the tanks as a rough guide for you. Does your wife ever help out with the fish? You know, when I first started doing it seriously, particularly with the discus, she really enjoyed that. But this has consumed my life, I would say. So now she's pretty fed up. But she has some moments with it where she actually does enjoy it again. But generally, she gets fed up with me talking about fish. But she has her own hobbies, as you can see in the group. She has her own chicken and duck group. She's really into those. She has parrots and she has her dogs. It's pretty much a zoo where we are. So we are very much pet-orientated family. Thanks, Eddie. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Len, I'll put in a YouTube link in a minute, and you can go from there. Tim, on my C008 coming over to you. No, Eric, I'm really, really disappointed. Apparently, the freight company are not shipping from Europe at the minute for live animals. I just don't think they can guarantee it with everything going on right now. Really disappointed. I keep seeing yours with huge envy. They're beautiful fish, but you know, it's the way things go sometimes. Sometimes you get the opportunity, sometimes you don't. Oh, that's very kind of you, Neil, for the donation. That's really appreciated. Thank you. I'll see about doing something like that in the future. I don't like necessarily going around begging. I quite happily go for adverts because I know not everyone can afford to give. But that's very kind of you to say so. that wasn't a setup as well. So cool. All right, we're down to 25 or so you left. We're well over an hour now, guys. Final questions on the door. How many tanks do you have for your Corys, Tim? These are 14 tanks I have here. So I'll go back again. So you, Matt, you might not have seen the whole thing. So if you can get some ceiling to floor behind the chair. So yeah, not a huge amount of tanks compared to other people. There's the people in the group with a huge amount more, and I think Matt, you've got a huge amount more probably yourself. Top breeder from Oz, and great to have you on the team as well, Matt. There you go, Mark. I knew Mark was going to beat me. Yeah, definitely, Morton. You're one of the tank masters as well. But yeah, Mark, you I know have pretty much a zoo as well. I definitely don't want our wives to meet Mark because I suspect you could start something off, and we can maybe be your southern sort of branch. Yeah. So. And what sizes are they? The two top tanks are 80 litres each, and then roughly 34 litres for each of this size. These ones, I think, are about 38 litres, and then back down to 34 litres at the bottom. If you work in litres. Matt, if you don't, sorry. I'm not sure what Oz is on, metric or imperial. You're not a top breeder. Others better than me around. Matt, you don't do yourself justice, my friend. You're a bit of a pro. Dennis says, "What was your most challenging Cory to breed? What was the most enjoyable fish to keep?" The most challenging one, which I think I've had, which I've been successful so far, has been the C045s, because I got those back in February, I think it was, from Mark. And they haven't bred till now, but I think a lot of it has been down to also the amount of water changes that I could give them during the summer months. We just had a huge drought from about April through to July-ish. We just had nothing, so I was really struggling to keep on top of the water changes, and that's what's made me realise I got to go and get some RO as backup. I can't use our tap water. The tap water's around 50 on the nitrate scale, and you're doing a water change and actually you're putting more crap in than you're taking out. But enjoyable wise, I do like sort of the active ones, which aren't so easily spooked. I've got to say that the C127s are very open and always at the front of the tank, which is nice. The concolor as well. Sorry, I'm not showing the right bit in the video. These guys are great. I love it when they get a bit feisty with each other, and the males go around and really give each other the argy-bargy, with their fins. They're good to watch. What else we have? Will Coolie Loach eat my Cory fry or eggs? I know what Coolie Loaches are, but I haven't kept them since I was a boy, so I'm not 100% sure. With most fish, if it fits in their mouth, they will go for it. So I would probably say don't risk it. Thanks, Mark. Right, yes, but they may hurt the adults too. Yep, I agree. Wow, I never knew that. Thanks for the stream. No worries at all. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Mark agrees as well. You want to keep probably as little other fish in the tank as possible if you're intending to breed, can I add? Because not everyone wants to breed their fish. They just want to keep them and enjoy them. And that's fine. And that is completely fine, guys, to do that. It's whatever you feel good and happy with. Some of my tanks, because I've got too many fish in there, I won't take the eggs out and I'll just let the survival of the fittest go. But, and sometimes that works out. And sometimes it works better than taking the fry out. Each species and maybe even down to each tank, just the water chemistry in that tank. Because the other thing is, one of my C045s bred the other week was I changed them from one tank to another. They went from the bottom shelf to the middle shelf, and that probably changed the chemistry, the temperature slightly, and that might also be the thing which pushed them over the edge. But as you can see at the minute, when they're doing what they're doing at the minute, they're all horny and into the mood. So I'll just put a little bit of Barry White on, and we might have fireworks. You never know. So, anyway, look, there you go. Gold lasers are out now. Let's try and zoom in here. So the lights are winding down a little bit, so it's quite dark in here now. Thanks, Eric, for watching. Thanks for joining, buddy. Really appreciate it. It's great to hear some of the comments. You'll see in a few of my tanks I have some leaves in there as well. They are beech leaves. I'm quite fortunate I have a lot of beech trees around me, and they're also quite good. They can turn the water slightly darker, which actually I quite like. Put some tannins in the water, which can be quite good for the fish as well. I'm glad. Maybe we should time these so we all do our weekly water change together. Yeah, and maybe we get it all a bit more, that it's a bit more open. I think I can do it so other people can talk. We can make a room or something, and we can just have that general conversation. But everyone has to just make sure you keep an eye on the water going in the tank and it doesn't overflow. Because you get carried away. That's always the biggest problem with the water change. Someone always messages me and says, "Hey Tim, got a problem with my fish," or "Hey Tim, have you spawned da 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 da?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, quickly answer that. Damn, tank's overflowing." Len, I'm just waiting for lockdown to England, and I'm off to Midlands to pick up the Corrie Schwartzline. Very good, very good. Thanks, Davey. I appreciate the comments. It's much appreciated. And I hope you guys get something out of it as well. Yeah, you're right. Auto water change is the way to go, Matt. I would love to do an auto water change. Although some days I really enjoy doing a water change. I think it's quite therapeutic. But some days where it's just like, I don't know, kids are sick or something, and it's just like, oh, got to deal with that, and I got to go and do a water change today as well. It's overdue or something, and you're just like, oh, I just haven't got time. But you need to do it. That's a thing, and you just want to get it done as quickly as possible. Good, the guys like it now. That's it, Len. Yeah, two a week I think is probably optimal. That's what I would say. Some species prefer differently. Get a water vacuum cleaner. Well, Morton, share links. That's what I can say. Share us what you got. You're planning a rack build to put in an AWC auto water change onto my sump. Yeah, I have it on my discus tank. I have it's a auto water change, but I've switched them over to RO in my discus tank now, and so I can't just do like a big portion. So it's on a drip in, drip out constant. So they're always having a water change, and I'll just when I vacuum the gravel or something like that, they'll get an extra big dump of 40 litres or something at that point. But other than that, it's always on the auto water change for them. But I just didn't have really the space to do that here, and without making it look quite messy. Yeah, that's the problem. 27 buckets, my friend. So let me tell you the story of my children had tanks in their bedroom, with Corries in, and obviously, of course, my children desperately wanted that. They didn't, it wasn't me after it, and they had them in there, and things were going very well, and their tanks were really quite successful. But one day I had to change water buckets because one of my water buckets was beginning to fail on me, so I bought one. And I could blame my wife on this, but I said, jump out the car and just grab one of those buckets from that shop, and they had them outside. And she picked one. She picked up ones from the outside area, and when I got home, I did a water change. And the first time I used the bucket, took it through the children's bedroom, and the handle just snapped straight off. And of course, because it had been sat out in the sun and probably had been sat there for some time, it obviously gone brittle, and so it was probably 10 litres, something like that, of water onto the carpet, and it was horrendous. And so that whole carpet, everything had to come out and change the floor. Probably that broken bucket probably cost me a good I don't know, £300 or £400, which is not what you want. And of course, at that point, I was told no more fish tanks in the bedroom, which is disappointing because I wanted one in my bedroom. So don't buy buckets from shops which keep them outside. There's today's lesson. Yes, I need new fishing, always. Always. Hi Harvey, thanks for joining, my friend. Nice to see you. Although I think we're about coming to the end. We're beginning to get a bit lower on numbers now. We're sort of mid-20s. Len's asked a question, Tim, my Charles Austin pump arrived this evening, so fitting that tomorrow. Good. Honestly, I have been well impressed with my one. Really, really impressed. It's just, it's so quiet. I mean, I don't know if you can hear it at the minute where I am coming through on the audio, but, I sit in here and to be honest, it's the bubbles from the tank which I think make more noise than the air pump does itself. And that one pump it's a 40 litre pump, and that does all these tanks, and some of the tanks, that's 14, 15, 16 outlets plus a couple for the fry going. So yeah, I mean, I probably had it going with quite a few, maybe up to 24 with no issues. I think it could still go further. It's been great. I know, Mark. I know. I'm fighting off the fourth child at the minute. So, yeah, there we go. Yep, it is quiet. You're right, then. It is quiet. So, let's see what else is going on down here. This is where you want to see someone live spawning. Would be nice on a live video, wouldn't it? I haven't heard anything from my Wesmani for a little while. I'd like to see them spawn. I think that's the big female who's just swum into view. There's the little Venezuelaness and the quarantine tank. Zooming around. They're happy bunnies. No sign of any issues so far in the QT. What's Santa going to bring you? Mort's putting a link. I can't look at it at the minute. I'll have a look later. So I had a 10-way manifold with it. Okay, that's cool. I've got a air pump which runs. I'm going to go show you the back end of the system. So air pump. One of the pipes that comes down from the top, and then each one's got a tap in it. So there's at least 2 points per tank. So I could have fry, and all of them. If I was really thinking everything was going according to the plan, that'd be nice. I tell you what, have we got some bloodworm still down here? Let's give a bit more to the geophagus. Here. There you go. Like a bunch of wolves, these guys. Bunch of wolves. They're unreal. Absolutely unreal. I'm sure I could train them. In fact, I know I can train them. They're eating at the minute, but I've got one of the laser guns, and they'll always follow the laser light around. Well, simmers are out at the minute, that's nice to see. They're quite a shy species, I found. And let me get it right. C123, I think it is. Yellowfins. Someone correct me quickly. Might be CW. I've just got a couple of those, got given those to me as well. Really desperate to get a few friends for those guys because they're both male. And so, yeah, if I can find someone who would like to give me a few more of those, I'd like to try spawning them, as I haven't spawned anything from lineage 5 before. That would be nice. Although I'm not always a big fan of lineage 5s, those ones I did take a fancy to. So, well, if my Westmarnie do breed Len, and you want to come down, then that's cool. But so I've got none. I think I've got about 8 in there at the minute. It's not. I can't split the group. I'd only put them in a group of 6 really. Using KH Build to help maintain pH and help breeding. Yeah, something to try. Alright guys, I think we'll probably look to wrap it up. It's getting quite late here. Kids need to go to bed for sure. So I will say thank you very much for joining. Please check out the website. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And feel free to carry on though the conversation within this channel. There's no problems with that. Just whatever you want to ask. There's a lot of very, very experienced individuals here who can give a lot of advice, and and we also as experienced people might even get some, you never know. So thank you very much. Take care, hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you soon. Take care.